we're having an interview with Gloria, and I'll get her to introduce herself and what her nation is that she belongs to.
My name is the Rev Gloria Shipp. I'm the first Aboriginal woman who was ordained as the Anglican priest of Australia. I live in Dubbo, but Wiradjuri Nation, but I actually come from Gamilaroi Nation.
And you've lived in Dubbo a long time,
Yeah, I've lived in Dubbo now, I think it'd be 25, 26 years. I married a Dubbo man.
So you got no choice, you got to live here.
Yeah.
Yes. Do you want to, because you've mentioned that you're a reverend, do you want to just tell us a little bit about what it means for you to be an Aboriginal reverend in the Anglican Church, both as an Aboriginal person and as a woman?
Yeah. Sometimes it can be very difficult and hard because in the early days I was like a pioneering clergy person and woman, and especially for the Aboriginal people in the church. And we just was on overload, but it worked out, and I'm just thankful to some people who were there, and especially the Catholic Church, who supported and helped me through these times. I still don't get a lot of recognition through as an Aboriginal priest in the mainstream church. But I do belong to what we call NATSIAC, which is a National Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Anglican Council. We are the part of the Anglican Church what is trying to educate the, and I'll use the word white Australians in the Anglican Church on Aboriginal issues.
I remember when you were ordained, and there was something really different about the service. Do you want to just mention what we did that was different?
And what was different, it was I was actually danced in by a group of Aboriginal dancers. At that time, Lynn was a part of that as well. And not only that, I had Lynn and her sister, Diane, and some of the others, and she was a little girl then. She's not a little girl anymore, Lynn's daughter. And they actually painted me with white ochre because I was coming out of one thing and being like I was initiated to go into another role within the church. And so I'm very much the Aboriginal instructor within the Anglican Church, even though there's many of us across Australia. Yeah, I'm seen more as an Aboriginal priest than what I am just mainstream.
And that was a really different thing for the church to cope with, wasn't it?
Yes, yes. And even now with NATSIAC, what I just spoke about before, even trying to educate the church on Aboriginal special days like the Coming of the Light, NAIDOC Week, Sorry Day, the churches, and even doing welcoming and acknowledgement within the church is really, really difficult for mainstream churches, but slowly we are educating them that this needs to happen. They need to recognise they want us as partners within the church. Then we need to be able to work as partners, not just on a piece of paper. It has to be really done out there within the church. Some take it on board and some don't. Yeah.
Okay. This video is going to be put onto a website accessed by people who are going to become doctors and lawyers and teachers, etc. Have you got any examples where cultural difference has been demonstrated that you've had experienced or seen in your family?
Well, one experience when I was at theology college was when, and I done that up in Darwin where most of the traditional people live. And anyway, this young guy was making sexual remarks in the classroom. And then the traditional men took him aside and said, "You have insulted our women by talking like that, because culturally men talk men business between the men and women did women's business between the women. It wasn't something that you did in a group in sexual matters."
So it caused a lot of conflict, particularly in a society that doesn't see that as a boundary anymore.
Yeah, I think it would cause a lot of conflict too, because even myself today, I get really funny on the inside when we're in a group and when there's a lot of sexual talk going on. There's difference between talking about abuse and things like that, but it's you never do it.
Any examples within systems that you've seen that have caused conflict or problems for Aboriginal people, like in health or education or legal? Any issues that you've seen?
Some of the legal thing, because I'm also chaplain out at the Arana Juvenile Justice Centre here in Dubbo. I see a lot of the young boys who are in the centre, and some of the bail conditions that's put onto these boys, not knowing culturally how they like to visit their aunts and uncles or their cousins or whatever, but their bail condition is they're not to leave the house they're staying in. But culturally, you went around and seen and you stayed, and as soon as they go to stay at their aunts, or some of them might have had a row with their mother or father, and they've gone to another house, they've broken bail conditions, and they're put back into the centre.
Because under traditional systems or Aboriginal systems, those aunties are actually their other mothers, aren't they?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So they're stopping them from seeing their other parents and other brothers and sisters.
Yeah, and going somewhere where they'd feel safer if they've had a falling out with their biological parent.
Yeah, which we all do.
Yes.
Are there any other examples that you want to give? Well, it could be something that's happened in your family, to one of your family members, or to yourself, or to the boys in the jail.
Yeah. Can you think family? I'm just trying to think family. My mind is.
There's probably too many examples to give.
Yeah, no, just so many things are happening, and I know when I went to school, education wasn't important. Teachers didn't have to teach us, but we were put in to. We went through more or less mainstream kindergarten, first class, third class, fourth class, fifth. But the minute we hit high school, we were all put into one room, and we stayed in that room. And 1B, 2B, I think it was called, and we stayed in there until we came 14 and 10 months, and then made leave school.
So that doesn't give you a very good education, does it? No.
And I had to come back to TAFE and do my Year 10 certificate, and yep.
So that's if you're thinking about that in terms of your generation, and then helping the next generation, it's a bit hard to help them in education when you haven't got that knowledge of the education system yourself to draw on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how have you gone about that with your own family?
I think because I did come back to TAFE and I did go to uni for a while, and I went off and did theology. I didn't allow it to stop me to further my education. Yeah.
Because I guess in one sense, by all being put into the one room, you're actually being told that you weren't capable of learning.
Yeah.
And you've proved them wrong, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you want to say that yourself?
Well, yeah. Well, people putting us into all to one room. Because I'm not bragging, but I actually topped the class in our yearly and half-yearly exams. I was the one who went around and helped all the other students to do their work and whatever when they didn't understand. So it was really, in one way it was good, and another way it wasn't so good.
So basically you had to wait until you left school to get an education.
Yeah, till 63. Yeah, well, not age 63. It was 1963 that I actually came back into the education system, and that was TAFE. Yeah.
Yeah, because
63. 93.
1973.
Yeah, 93. Made a mistake. 93.
So,
no, not age 93. 1993.
So say that again. So you went all the way through. Just explain again that you went through school.
I went through school, but because we were put into one class. We were put out of school at the age of 4. As soon as we turned 14 and 10 months, because that was the age you could leave school then, we were asked to leave school at 14 and 10 months, and then I just married, and I did work for a little while, married and had my family, and then in 1993 I came back to TAFE and furthered my education and went on to do more education. And yeah.
So the stereotype that you weren't really able to do anything was disproved, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you've shown it by doing things. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so if people are going to be coming out and working in communities with Aboriginal people or for Aboriginal people in the public service sector or whatever, what kind of message would you like to give them?
I think to walk alongside them, not above them, not under them. Just walk beside, really know their background and where they've come from, identify with them of who they are and where they've come from, and help them to identify and where they've come from.
So it's not about telling people what they need to know, but finding out from them.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to say that?
Yeah, it's helping them and helping you to find out where they come from and who they are and where they belong, because it's not just a matter of, well, he's just an Aboriginal person and he's no different than a white person, because that's not true. Culturally, they are different.
Are there any cultural things that they need to specifically take into consideration when they come out that you can think of? Or is it just really a matter about learning about that particular group wherever they go?
I think it's a matter of learning about the individual and their own community and where they've come from, and the history. It's because we can't change history. We live in the present, but we certainly can help to change the future.
And the history is a big part of that, isn't it?
Yes.
Because if you don't understand the history, you don't understand what you're working with.
Working with, yeah.
Okay.